He might not be from Krypton, but he's heads above the rest. His knowledge can't be questioned. You can put it to the test. So if you want to hear the truth and have nowhere else to go, I'll give you the solution. Just tune into his show and just kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Phantom Zone. It is the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media show money-taking, the man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying villain in all of YouTube entertainment today, and the most tired villain. I can count on my hands how many times I've done these kind of things, and I don't do reviews these late because of the fact that it's so late, and I can't get my thoughts together. I don't just like doing initial reactions. I like to think about stuff for a couple of days and then kind of make a review based on that. But this is a special occasion. One, because my birthday is 2 days away, and two, because my amazing, beautiful, wonderful woman took me to see Spider-Man. So I'm going to do the worst review ever, a non-spoiler review. They're hard because you can't talk about what makes the movie good. So it's a great film. Buy 3 tickets. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. It was great to see y'all now. I'll give you a little bit more details, but I'm going to try to go over this movie without ruining this movie, because I really believe this is a strong case for why you need to see this movie in the theater. So I'm going to go over all of it without actually ruining everything. I'll try to glaze over what I liked, which was mostly everything, and give hints without giving too much away. Anything I touch on, it was already shown in the trailers, so it won't be spoiled, or anything that has been on posters or promotional material. Nothing that will ruin your experience in seeing the movie. It's like almost a 3-hour movie, so I don't really feel like I can ruin it anyway. So let's see who we got here. Probably not a lot of people. This is hella late, even for me. This is like beyond late night talks late. So if I'm a little tired looking, it's because I am. I just got off of work and literally saw this right after work. So I came home, showered, went back out to see this. Clocktown Res, I believe that's the Senate. What's up? The Somber Sherry, how are you? Hopefully you got some sleep. Jenny, good to see you here. Janie Davis, awesome to see you here. Crummel, hello, welcome. I'm sure for people who are in a different time zone, this is really interesting. Thank you. I'm glad that you watch movies reviews. This is one I'm going to encourage everybody to see in the movies. So before I get into this, what did I think? Because I've been kind of on the fence about Marvel, but keep in mind this movie is not just Marvel. This is Sony, and Sony has hit home runs with everything they've put out as far as Spider-Man goes. Whether you like Venom or not, that did well. The Into the Spider-Verse did great. Their Spider-Man Connected Universe has been extraordinarily handled, and I want to highlight someone really quick. The writer and director, Jon Watts. I don't know who this person is. Whoever they are, they need to do every Spider-Man movie. McKennaErik SommersStan wrote the story, and it stars Tom Holland, Zoe Zendaya, and Benedict Cumberbatch. So, oh boy, what do I think of this film? This film is great. this movie, and I think Bitchy summed it up to me the best. This movie is everything that got me interested in Spider-Man. Now, if you guys don't know, I come from the days of Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. It's the Sam Raimi trilogy. I love the Sam Raimi trilogy. This movie has literally taken the best parts of every single Spider-Man and used that and fixed and thrown away a lot of the stuff that didn't work. And I'm not talking in one Spider-Man movie. I'm talking in every This literally fixes a lot of issues in every single Spider-Man movie. And that means the original trilogy. So I can tap dance around and make this review a little bit longer. The Sam Raimi trilogy was too goofy. It had a lot of Sam Raimi humor, but not the dark stuff. The Andrew Garfield, I think he didn't have a chance to really act like he can. And it suffered from being a little bit too dark, and it had the humor in very inappropriate places. Tom Holland has had this thing where Marvel has been scared to let him act. And I've got to say, 100%, and PB, if you're listening to this, Tom Holland crushes it in this movie. Tom Holland gives the best performance I've ever seen him give. He convinced me he is Spider-Man in this movie. He is phenomenal. He has a lot of emotional scenes in this movie, and he crushes it. Absolutely, positively, like, brought me to tears a couple of times in this film. He is the new Spider-Man. He does a lot of Spider-Man things, and it brings a lot of context to the older movies he was in. It now feels like watching him literally grow up into this role. Like, now that we have this movie, it does what a trilogy should do. It makes every movie that came before seem like a stepping stone to him becoming the Spider-Man. He transitions into this movie, into the Spider-Man he's meant to be. He doesn't have training wheels. He doesn't have Tony Stark. I don't want to give too much away. People know Doctor Strange is in the movie. He is not Tony Stark. He does not help him whatsoever. They have a lot of funny banter, but really it's Tom Holland's movie. It is him becoming Peter Parker. He is becoming Spider-Man. He is learning about the sacrifices that it takes, and that he's been a kid through these movies. And it's time for him. The best way I could put it is to grow the fuck up. He grows up in this movie. Like, literally. This is like the Spider-Man I think Tom Holland fans have been waiting for. I've never thought he's done a good job in the first Spider-Man, but he never did acting to convince me he was this role. Like, he had the Parker funny quirkiness, but he didn't feel like Spider-Man to me. He felt like he had elements. And in this one, there is a particular thing that happens that makes him Spider-Man. And it was beautifully done. Like, kudos to Tom Holland. Like, seriously, brought his A game. Marissa Tomei was fantastic. Every single person gives a great there is not one person I could pick out of this cast and go, oh, they did a terrible job. Like, everyone brought their A+ game. There is not one bad actor in this whole entire movie. I can't stand Zoe Saldana. I thought she was a very obnoxious character, and I actually loved her in this. She was terrific. Ned was great in this movie. Fucking Ned, he annoyed the shit out of me in the other ones, but he got his own little thing in this movie, and oh my God, everything fits together perfectly. Everyone has something to do. Everything is important. The villains, some of them, because there's so many, get kind of shuffled, but each of them do wind up playing a part, whether it's big or small. They fit into what the larger story is. So let me see what we got going on here. See who might have questions. Yes. This definitely is a step up. I put this with me loving this as much as the very first Spider-Man, and that's a high bar. Like, the first and second Spider-Man are my favorite, and I think this is right up there. This might even beat them, to be honest with you, because of how they do this movie. It doesn't feel like they're competing, but it feels like they're finally bringing them all in to complete a story that's been going on for years. That's what it felt like to me. Yeah. I agree. We've had a couple of different things with the viruses. Let's see. We just got some talk. Mr. Zod Fan Zone. I love watching you light up from a good movie. Thank you. I am really happy. I'm really happy with this film. So things I can say without spoiling it. Yes, there is. This is the weird part. There is Endgame vibes, but it doesn't feel like Endgame for the Spider-Man. It feels like Endgame for the MCU. This feels like Sony giving the MCU the proper farewell, and they're now setting up for a larger story. It closes a lot of the story arcs that started, but it also opens up new ones for Sony to step in and do whatever they're going to do. So it was a very great transition. As you guys know, there's 3 more movies coming with Tom Holland, and it shows with the way they set everything up. Yeah, definitely see it. This is a movie I would encourage everybody to support, because I think they deserve it. So let me start with the things you can expect. Everything you've seen in the trailers is 100% true. The villains you saw there, it's no spoiler at this point. Doc Ock is in there. Jamie Foxx's Electrode, Lizard, Sandman. Those were all already shown to people. They're in there. I'm not going to give specifics as to how they play a role into the story, but each of them have their own specific thing that they play. Now, the gist of the story is the last film, when Mysterio outed Spider-Man's persona, everyone starts hassling him, and so he goes to Doctor Strange, and he goes to make a spell to make people forget. During the spell, Tom Holland does what Tom Holland does, the annoying Tom Holland, and he messes up Doctor Strange's spell, which has a ripple effect, and it pulls the past villains into the current Spider-Man's universe, and he's got to round them up essentially and send them back home so that the dimensions don't bleed together. Yeah, it's a lot to do. This movie does a lot with the Spider-Verse. I was like saying I would like to see Miles Morales, because the stuff that they leave open, they could have Spider-Verse stories. But the story itself is very well constructed because they picked core characters. And my biggest fear going into this was that they were going to do so much and it was just going to be all show. But it really wasn't. There's a conflict between Doctor Strange and Peter Parker. And it's one singular conflict. And it really drives the whole entire story. And I think the director was smart in picking one thing to focus on and using everybody for that one thing. The special effects are absolutely amazing. They are top notch. It's Marvel though, so I mean, was there a doubt that they weren't going to have awesome special effects? I mean, they were absolutely amazing. Yes, I would love to see Spider-Gwen as well. She's one of my favorite, actually. So the special effects are great. The cinematography is great. The standouts out of this, I would have to say, would be, I'm sure you're shocked, but Willem Dafoe, excellent in this. I don't think anyone would suspect anything different. Andrew Molino, who plays Dr. Octavius from the originals, he is absolutely fantastic in this film. And everything was good. Now, I'm not going to give away too much. I'm not going to tell you the things that are in it, because I think the surprise should be from seeing what happens. But there's quite a few things they pack into this movie, and without giving too much away, they have fixed a problem that the MCU has had. See, in this universe, they kind of went the DC route. The Netflix shows were not connected to the MCU. The shows on Hulu were not connected, yada, yada, yada. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was its own thing. And slowly I see the MCU bringing everything into the fold. So it's very interesting. And I know what you guys are saying. You've heard rumors about other cameos. I'm not going to tell you if they're true. I'm not going to tell you how how it all comes together. I don't want to ruin it for you. But everything that's put into this movie is not just there like, oh, remember this event. It's everything serves the story. Everything you see serves what they're trying to tell. It's really hard to do this without doing spoilers and giving stuff away. But all of the people who are in this film, they all have a purpose to the main story. And it was great because there is fan service, and I don't just mean for other Spider-Man movie. There's literally fan service for stuff in the MCU. There's fan service for Into the Spider-Verse. There is a funny part that makes a reference to Miles Morales. That kind of got me hyped because I was like, oh man, are they going to bring him in? Like, wow. Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was supposed to be connected, but they just didn't. I don't know why. But yeah, top-notch acting across the board. They really dialed back. So let me get into the characters that I can talk about without ruining it. So I'll go just do the main cast. Tom Holland, aces. Tom Holland in this movie. If we can get a performance out of him like this in every movie, and now I see that the directing is what's really held him back. He is a hell of an actor. Oh my God. When Tom Holland is allowed to be given range, seriously, the most emotional moments in this film was square on the shoulders of Tom Holland, and he knocks it out of the park. He had me tearing up quite a few times. And oh yeah, jokes. There is very little jokes in this. They do have the jokes in there, but this is a much darker than what I'm used to seeing from the MCU. There is a very dark tone to this, and some of the emotional moments they let happen, and I appreciate that because there's a couple of scenes that could have been ruined if they put a joke in it. There's one scene in particular, and they don't, and I was shocked. I don't know if it was Marvel's decision or Sony, but kudos because someone had balls in the writing department. They do something in here I didn't think that an MCU movie would do, and it really gives impact to this story. And it lets you know that there is actual real consequences, and that some of the people you love might not be safe. I'm telling you, go in there like, I had high hopes, and this movie actually went way above what I I had imagined in my mind this movie to be. And very few movies are able to do that. This actually way exceeded my expectations of what I thought it was going to be. And I'm glad. I'm actually glad that they finally exceed my expectations. And I really will say Sony did this. I feel like this wasn't Marvel. I think Sony made a lot of these decisions because there's some ballsy stuff in here. And I don't think that was Kevin. I just don't. I think that was Sony saying, like, we're setting this up and you guys need to do this. And it pays off. Sony, bravo, really. Keep doing what you're doing. Will Gentry, what's up? I would disagree. I'd say, well, I agree. It's not a great, but I would say for the MCU and for the Spider-Man in general, I would put it at the top with some of the best Spider-Man. That's just my personal opinion. I honestly do think a lot of things they do in this film, even the original ones, wouldn't have the guts to do. They fix a lot of characters. And they fix a couple of people who really got shafted in the older films. So you know what? Let me just say it. Jamie Foxx gets a redo. And unlike Jared Leto, I really think Jamie Foxx's character is the one that got the best fix in this. Not going to tell you anything because I don't want to ruin it. But I'm glad because Jamie Foxx is a good actor. And they let him act. they let him act in this one. He didn't have stupid, corny lines. There were a couple of quips here that didn't really land with me, but for the most part, he was a lot better, and I felt a lot more sympathetic for him than I did in the Andrew Garfield version. He does some things that made me be like, wow, I actually kind of understand where he's coming from. Like taking what I know from the second movie and then seeing the way he acted in this movie. And this is the great thing. They didn't change any of the characters from who they were. They kept the characters the same. They just changed them because of the time period they're in. They changed how they took what was happening to them. And it felt like a natural reaction to being ripped out of their time. Everybody acted great. Willem Dafoe by far steals the show. He is 20 times, if you can believe it, he's 20 times scarier in this one than he was in the original. Like, there were times where I was like, holy shit, this dude is evil. Like, just kill him because he can't be saved. He is an evil prick. Willem Dafoe, like, gets my best acted award in this out of all of them because, oh my God, like, it gets to a point where you really just want Spider-Man to kill him. Yeah, it was fan service done right. Well, I 100% agree. There was a lot of fan service in this, but and yeah, Willem Dafoe totally steals the show. 110%. Like, I love Willem Dafoe because when he gets a role, he doesn't half-ass it, and he's returning to this role. It was a corny role in the first one, let's be real, and you know, he hammed it up and made it his own. And some say he's the best part of that first Tobey Maguire movie, the chemistry that they have, the back and forth. And I don't know how. Maybe it's just him as an actor, but he brings out greatness in Tom Holland. There's particular things that happen between him and Tom Holland, and the same things he does with Tobey Maguire in that first movie, he does to Tom, and the back and forth, he really makes Tom Holland shine. Like, really, the play off of each other makes his acting better. Like, everybody pushes everybody else to be better in this film. even the villains interacting with each other, like they all are seasoned actors, and you can see the back and forth between all of them. The chemistry is amazing. Hey, MegaJetty1 Super Chat says, "Hey dudes, no spoilers for me. I just want to leave a like. Take care." No, this is no spoilers, Mega. Don't leave. I'm not spoiling anything. Yeah. Yeah. This is a non-spoiler talk. I will not be ruining anything for people who haven't seen it. So in the chat, if you have seen it, don't ruin it for anybody else, because it's just coming out tomorrow. I happen to see it a little bit earlier. So I'm giving you guys my initial thoughts and opinions. I'm probably going to see it 2 more times. And maybe I'll be able to pick out more stuff. But my initial reaction was, I felt like a kid. I felt like I first felt like when I first seen Spider-Man 1 in the theater with my father. I had that feeling of like being a little boy and loving everything I was seeing. This movie really is a movie that brings you back to why you love Spider-Man, why you love superheroes. And, maybe I'm getting sentimental because I'm going to be getting older soon. I don't know. But it really, from the first moment, when, Doc Ock comes on the bridge, and I'm not spoiling anything. They showed that in the trailers. The way it's set up, though, it made me feel like that little kid, giddy, like, oh my God, like, look at, and this is what 2021 special effects. So it's 20 times better than when I was a kid. Yeah, it is easy to spoil this film. So I'm trying my best not to. Wish I could, though, because I want to know if you agree with me the moment of the film, and that moment is a heavy spoiler. LOL. Yeah, there's yeah, Mega Jetty, if you were lucky enough to not see the trailer, then I apologize, but it's been around, so I'm just going based off what they showed in the trailer and not what's actually in the movie. There's a couple of neat things. Stay till the end of the movie, and I don't just mean the first ending. There is something at the very end of the film, and I'm pretty ecstatic to see where this is all going. Yeah, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about, and if it's what I'm thinking, then yes. There were quite a few things that hit me. This movie is very well done as far as the emotional scenes. So let me talk about for a second a big problem Marvel has and how this movie doesn't fall into this problem. So Marvel has this thing where they'll do a serious moment and then they'll tell a joke. And what that does is it takes the emotional weight out of what's happening. And why Marvel does this is because they built up this thing where they like families to come and they don't want to make people sad. So they kind of undercut the performance of the actors. This movie does not do that at all. There are quite a few very heavily emotional moments, and they do not tell a joke. Like, they let you, like, sit in it. Like, you're just going, shit, I don't know how to feel about this. And I really, go ahead, honey. I really love that because for me, a lot of Marvel movies are ruined because I'll be really getting into the story, and then someone will say a stupid, inappropriate joke. And it's like, man, you guys had me with this really good, and this is why I like the Hawkeye series, because there was the last episode they showed, there was a very heavy scene and they let it play out. And I think Marvel is starting to get the hint that we don't like when they just take the emotion out of the room. Let people feel something. Let them realize the weight of what it is, because part of the appeal is that there's consequences in this universe. You just don't blow shit up and then nothing happens. There has to be some kind of consequences for the actions that the heroes take. Otherwise, it just feels like a stupid superhero movie. It doesn't feel like an intelligent film. And I commend them for letting this movie be what it is, be heavy and make you laugh and cry and feel overjoyed at the hero's journey. I felt more attached to Tom Holland because they let him grow up in this film. And I can't stress to you how important it was for Tom Holland to have his moment where he can show us how emotional and the raw feelings that he can have, because he's always joking and stuff, and it's always taken away from how great he could be. And it's really a shame, because after seeing his performance in this film, I'm like, how many other people would be aboard the Tom Holland train if they let him act like this? He's a great actor. He really is. Like, he really fucking nails it. I can't stress it enough. And I've said it 1,000 times. I don't really like his version of Spider-Man, but in this film, he won me over. Yeah, that takes the gravitas and emotional impact away, but there's a few in this one where it does spoil it away. Yeah, not in the one that we're thinking of. There is one particular scene they let play out, and it's probably the best scene in the whole movie. Yeah, the jokes killed the serious moments. Yep, I agree. Really annoyed with the Holland films. There were times where they should have yelled at his friends. Yeah, I agree. Mr. Zod's Phantom Show, true, but the experience, that's what my family does to process through the trauma. Yeah, but they also have to let the trauma happen in the movies, so that when something good happens, you get the rush of joy. If it's just nonstop joy, it takes away from the impact of the rest of the movie. I mean, that's just how I look at it. Yeah, I am. I am enjoying Hawkeye a lot. It's a lot better than most of the other ones. Yeah. So I'm gonna get to the friends, because they're. I feel like I can break them down in this film without ruining anything. Yes, I agree. Will Gentry says, I think his 3 films, he's had a good growing up arc. In the first one, he followed Tony like a lost puppy. In the second one, he took care of shit on his own at the end. Exactly. Then in this one, he probably grew up. I agree. You can, like, I feel like I can go back through now and watch these other Holland films and watch the character grow. That's the thing this movie does. Star Wars, take notes. This is how you do a trilogy. They have a perfect character journey. And it makes me, this is what makes me the happiest about this film, is I literally can now say I've watched Holland grow up to become the hero that they always had plans for him to do. And if the MCU lets Tom Holland go now, I think they're idiots, because he really changes a lot in this film. So let me get to the other characters, because I think it's important to highlight his friends actually do shit in this movie, and they are not annoying. Ned has an arc, and it's actually legitimately funny. And I actually like Ned a lot in this movie. I liked him in the first one. The second one, he was just kind of annoying in there. But this one, he has his own thing that he comes to realize about himself that might play a role later. Zoe Saldana, okay, so I gotta give her some credit. I hate her character. I've hated her character for the last 2 films. She's annoying, she's pompous, she is like that annoying person you really hate. In this movie, they dialed her down, and she's actually funny. She cracks a funny. She had a joke that made me laugh. Not gonna lie. She felt right. They felt like a couple, and for a second, yeah, Zoe Saldana. LOL. Yeah, I know I mistyped, but to be fair, that's a freaking hard name to spell. Anyways, uh, Zoe Saldana, um, she when she's dialed back, she gave a great performance. I'm not gonna lie, I actually got some MJ vibes from her. Her and Tom Holland's romance in this is believable. It's high school. It feels like two kids in love that are trying to uh, make stuff work. Uh, I think yeah, Zendaya, whatever. You know what? Whatever the hell her name is. Uh, yeah, yeah. I get Gamora and MJ mixed up as far as the names go. They sound very look. They sound pretty similar. Okay. Uh, but anyways, Zoe. We'll just say Zoe does a great performance in this. She was funny. She gave actually the feels at a certain point. I brought her and Peter's relationship in this a lot more than I did in number two. Like, it wasn't ridiculous, kid, puppy, dog. That's the other thing too. Their relationships felt like they matured. Through things that happen, they kind of start finding their own place in this little Scooby gang that they have, and yes, yeah, I agree. Yeah, they both begin with Z. But yeah, they both evolve and grow as characters. Now, here's the thing. I still feel like out of all three of them, Tom Holland has the most character development. Ned has the second most, and Zoe has as much as you can give the love interest. But I'll give them credit. They finally wrote her how you should write a female antagonist, and they let her personality come out so people can appreciate the different things she brings, and she doesn't have any powers, but she does have like uh some spark, some pluck. She's not afraid to get in there. She reminded me a lot of what they did with Andrew Garfield with Emma Stone. I greatly liked Emma Stone's character in the Andrew Garfield series. I felt at times they did some things where they intentionally put her in danger, but for the most part, I liked her personality, and I feel like Zoe really hit that stride with coming into her own and kind of establishing herself separate from the other two. And I think it was important because she's always felt like the odd piece, like they kind of just jammed her into the story just to have an MJ. But in this one, she really feels like she becomes MJ. There's even a lot of like little nods to um, the original Mary Jane, in some things that she does, and in particular where she winds up. I don't want to give it away. It's so hard to do this without spoilers, but there's certain things that happen where you go, yeah, I buy her as this character. Um, at Mr. Zod's Phantom Zone, you don't get anyone's name right the first try. It's not disrespectful to the actors. Thank you, JD Davis. I appreciate it. Um, but yeah, so they do a lot with the characters. Doctor Strange has some growth. It's very interesting because I thought Doctor Strange would either be the new Tony Stark and Tom Holland would be attached at him at the hip, or he would just be in the background. And at points he is, but Doctor Strange has a little growing up that he does in this too. Hey, Generation Productions, good to see you. I'm doing a non-spoiler review to the new Spider-Man, which I just saw. No, see, that's just it. I never felt that the casting was just for a racial quota. I always felt like they didn't fit the characters. Like they were trying to find their footing. And now seeing this one versus the other two, if I watch all three of these together, I can see that what they were doing, what they were going for. These kids were growing up. See, this is two stories. This is about a high school kid going on his own and becoming a man. And it's also about the friends that you have in high school and how do you grow up with them? Do you wind up leaving and finding your own way? And then you add the superhero thing. And by the end of this, I got a lot of Tobey Maguire, even Andrew Garfield vibes. They took the best of both of those characters. And Holland is like a weird, this is the final thing. Like we experimented with here and here, and they took the best parts. And he feels like he embodies the best of those generations. I honestly believe that. I really feel they did a great job taking the old and the new and putting them together and making a great story. And this story is really good. The story, at first, it kind of struggles. The first couple of like 20, 25 minutes, it's a lot tying up what happened in the second movie, the consequences of Mysterio revealing Spider-Man's identity. But then it switches. This was one of my complaints. I really wanted to see more of that story. Like, there's a whole comic book arc with after Civil War when Spider-Man gets outed and the consequences of that. I think they did a good job. I would have liked to see a little bit more. And keep in mind, I'm really reaching here. I don't have very many bad things to say because I think for all of the little things that you could pick at with this movie, it gets a lot more right. It gets what's important to the story right. It nails the villains. It nails the heroes. Everybody grows up and goes on a journey. And at the end of it all, when you get to where everyone is left at, you feel like it wraps up this one trilogy, but it leaves it open for the next. Like, if they never did another Tom Holland movie, this would be a perfect ending. But if they do another one, which they will, this is also a good beginning point for, okay, this happened. Now I'm grown up. Now we jump into what it means to be Spider-Man. It's really great. Okay. But yeah. And it's hard to talk about because a lot of what I mean when I say that there's a lot of things in this film that fix things, I can't say without directly spoiling something. So it's hard for me to dance around the different things without giving away too much of the rest of it, because they do the story so well that a lot of the things interconnect with each other. And it's not just one event, it's several different choices in this movie that make up what happened. And it's so great because this all starts with one really bad idea. And it's kind of funny. It's not a spoiler, it's shown in the trailer, but Doctor Strange encouraging that idea. And this is where I say Doctor Strange grows, because he has this remark in the movie where he says, sometimes I forget you're just a kid. And it's Doctor Strange treats everybody like adults, and it kind of helps his character grow and realize too that, you know, he really wanted to do this spell that fucks everything up just because he wanted to do it. And it doesn't change his character. It actually feeds into who Doctor Strange is. So, yeah, it's really everybody learns from each other. And I think that's the mark of a great movie, is that not just one person changes through the journey. Your whole cast should have something they contribute and something that makes them grow as a character. If they don't, then they're just a plot device. They're just thrown in there to move the story along. And I think the writers do a good job of not making me feel like this person is just there to get things going. Everybody has a part to play, and every part leads to the next step in people's journey. And, who was it again, this director? Jon Watts. Jon Watts did a fantastic job. I have no clue who Jon Watts is. Hold on. I'm going to look up Jon Watts. I want to see what else this man has directed, because, he did a fantastic job. So let's look up. Jon Watts has directed. This is an interesting movie, Graham. He's done Clown, Cop Cars. Oh, he did Spider-Man Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. He's doing the Fantastic Four. He also did The Fuzz, which I thought was absolute garbage. Oh, wow. He did Sexy Beast with James Gandolfini. Nice. All right. So, yeah, it's the original director. Wow. He really had a plan. Good for him. Mr. Zod's Phantom Zone. I do that too. My sisters have to remind me that their kids are kids. Yep. I think that that's very good. By the way, I don't know if you notice on Twitter, but people think the other Shake It Up dancer, aside from Zendaya, should be have been MJ Bellathorne. Yeah. I think that Zoe did a good job in redeeming this character. I definitely liked her by the end of this film. So what else can I say? Doc Ock goes on a pretty good journey. Defoe steals the show. Jamie Foxx redeems himself. The others are just kind of there. Which I mean is that a lot of people get their chance to shine, but they're dealing with so many elements that there are some things that are left in the background. There are some people I wish got a little bit more use. I understand when you're dealing with so many elements, it's hard to get everything correct, especially considering the one thing that they do get right. I have to say, this has probably one of the best small scale battles, because we're talking MCU. As far as everything MCU has done, this is a smaller battle, but it feels so big. The end of this movie, I don't know how, but it's a really small fight, and yet they set it up so well that you feel the consequences, and you feel like this battle is like gonna decide everything. And don't get me wrong, there's the mystical element that comes into play, and that's the whole universe thing. But there's a smaller thing that's going on, and it's a personal story. And I don't want to get into it without ruining it, but it's something that Tom has to do, and it not only affects what's happening to him and what's going to happen to him later as these movies go on, but it's going to define what kind of Spider-Man he's going to be. Basically, this film is a lot about Tom Holland and what Spider-Man he is choosing to be. Is he going to follow people Is he going to be another Tony Stark? It's everything that every choice he's made and every mistake he's made, it's all come to a head in this one movie. And like Will said, Will Gentry put it the best. This is really Tom growing up. This felt like a, a lot of a coming of age kind of a thing where it's time to put the childish things away and you can still be who you are. But at some point, you have to take ownership for the mistakes you make. And there's always been somebody for Tom to fall back on. He's always had a safety net in these movies. And now it makes sense why they put Tony Stark in, why they put Happy Hogan in, why they have all these secondary characters. Because in this movie, it feels like they stripped that back. And don't get me wrong, there's an awesome support system in here. But it doesn't feel like he is supporting anyone anymore. It feels like he is fighting alongside them. Actually, I'm going to be perfectly honest. For the first time, it feels like Tom Holland is the person leading the fight, and these people are fighting with him. He is the one calling the shots. And this is what I hoped they were leading to. Like Tom taking charge and becoming the leader. Because Spider-Man doesn't work with other groups. And there's a reason why he doesn't. Because he can't. He's his own man, essentially. And I never got that with Tom. I always felt like he needed the Avengers. He needed Tony Stark. He needed his stupid friend Ned. And there comes a certain point that I love in this film where he realizes that, yeah, he could depend on other people, but at the end of the day, he's got to have confidence in who he is. If he doesn't have the confidence to be the person who's going to protect the whole city, then how is anybody supposed to follow him? And I think this movie conveys that so well. I cannot say enough great things about Tom Holland's performance. I really can't. Like, Tom, if you ever come across this and you're listening, bud, you won me over. You won me over. Great acting. He did a phenomenal job. Like, I'm just going to say he brought it to that, like, Maguire level. He probably surpassed a lot of what Tobey Maguire did because everybody picks Tobey as the best because he's the first. And he was the first to set up the baseline of what we think of Spider-Man as. But Holland really, in this journey, if you follow all of the movies, you see him grow up and he feels different somehow. He feels like he's his own man and, you know, he feels like a leader in this movie. I can't believe I'm saying it. I never thought I would ever give this character credit or be in a position where I'd be like, oh, yeah. But I would tell you what, he really won me over. Like, he really does a great job at setting himself up to be his own hero, where you can go and watch a Tom Holland Spider-Man and you don't need to see another character supporting him. You could be there to watch what his character is going to go through. And I'm interested, especially what happens to him. I'm very curious to see how his version of Spider-Man is going to deal with the consequences, because there's a lot of consequences. And anyone curious, there is real stakes. And not everybody's going to be the same after this. I don't want to spoil it for you. Like I said, no spoilers, but people will change. Don't go into this movie thinking everybody is safe. Okay? I want to give you that gift. Like, be on your toes. No, don't get comfortable. This movie does have stakes in it, and they do feel real. And you get to a point where you go, oh shit, I don't know if you know, somebody I like is gonna die. I don't know if, you know, Tom's gonna actually beat him. They really did a great job setting that up. At Mr. Zod's Phantom Zone, that's awesome. I bought I've always wanted Hawkeye to have that now. He does, yeah. It's the same with Hawkeye. Both these new series, I think Marvel is starting to realize and course correct, especially considering Eternals was trash. And I liked Shang-Chi. I thought that was the best, but Eternals was garbage. Falcon and Winter Soldier was mediocre. Loki was good until the ending. Then I thought it wasn't that great. I like WandaVision. I don't care. I'm not one of the people who dislike the ending. I thought it was good. I thought it left Wanda in a very good place. Zod, he may win you over, but he can't be your new favorite. Your favorite should be your first. That's why Terminator is my first franchise. No. He won me over. My favorite will always be Tobey Maguire. That's who I grew up with. And the great thing about this film that I really want to hammer home is there is no disrespect to the villains, to the heroes, to the memory of certain heroes. This movie respects the legacy of Spider-Man. And I think that's the most important part, is that this is a fun movie and it's a sad movie and it's got a good story, and it really makes me happy to see that maybe Marvel does care about its story still. And it could all just be Sony. I don't know. It feels there's a lot of love in this film. I can tell that Jon Watts respects these characters. And I was kind of on the fence about the way he chose to direct certain ones, but seeing this movie, I could tell the writers, the director, Tom, Zoe, the dude who plays Ned, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, Benedict Cumberbatch, they all care about the characters they're portraying, and it shows. It shows in how well they perform. Nobody phones it in. They all care about how good this final product is going to be. They care about giving you the best finale to this trilogy they've built up. I really think this should make $1 billion. I think this movie deserves to make money. This movie deserves for a lot of people to see it, because this movie loves its fans, and it loves you guys, and it wants you guys to have a good time. It wants you guys to have an awesome adventure. It wants you to laugh. It wants you to cry. It wants you to feel emotions. And I haven't seen that in a Marvel movie in a little bit, and it's refreshing to see the director actually gives a shit about what he's doing. This isn't diversity and we're just throwing people. This is very focused on the people you have come to either like or hate in this series of movies. If you are a Spider-Man fan, they care about you getting everything out of this movie. And you might not get everything you want, but it gives a good majority. And it fixes stuff. It legitimately fixes stuff from the older movies. They actually took the time. They didn't have to. They could have just brought these villains in for a cameo and said, there you go. You had your villains, and not given a shit. But they took the time to fix errors from previous movies. And that speaks volumes to me about how much they care about their franchises. That they went back through and corrected some fuck-ups. Like, yeah, we know Jamie Foxx with Blue are bad. Like, they fix shit that they should have had fixed in the previous movies. Let me go see some comments. Generation Production says, at Spider-Man's Phantom Zone, Tom Spider-Man, I want to kill you myself. Good Zod, because someone says the newest film is their new favorite. That's trend follower, and they can't be reliable. No, I do not follow trends. I was very excited, but I kept my optimism low because I just didn't want to get my hopes up and be crushed, and I wasn't. And I'm so happy about that. That's why I'm doing this review at 4 a.m. Sam R says Yellow Flash saying he's surprised at going reactions to this movie, saying Ghostbusters Afterlife was criticized for what this film has. Yeah, I agree. I don't understand. Okay, so Sam, you bring up a very good point. This movie does a lot of, and I loved Ghostbusters Afterlife. I rated it a 9.5. There were some things that bugged me. It was nothing to do with the fan service. There were some story inconsistencies, but I thought it was beautifully done. I teared up at the end of that movie. I thought it was a really good movie. Spider-Man does this, and I have no clue why the critics are so pissy about Ghostbusters, and they, they're really digging Spider-Man. I think a lot of it has to do with politics. That is, to me, straight politics. I think they didn't want that movie to be successful because it proves that 2015 sucked. Sorry, it did. Get over it. Bad movies get made. I wanted to like it too. But that's what happens when you have hacks comedians that aren't that funny trying to fill the shoes of great comedians. And it has nothing to do with genders. I'm talking about comedy in general. You couldn't put anybody in Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray. You can't. Those are like legendary comics. And the same thing happened with Aladdin. Will Smith, I love him. He's funny, he's talented. But when you try to take someone great like Robin Williams and put someone who's okay like Will Smith in that role, it doesn't work because they don't have the same comedy style. This isn't trying to be that. This movie is trying to, and I honestly saw this in the movie, they are trying to establish Tom Holland on his own. They gave him the training wheels, and this is him growing up. And I think the way that they went about doing it was not only respectful to what came before it, but it's also a great way to build the character they started. And honest to God, if you watch all three of these movies in a row, they work. It's a complete arc. You can literally see Tom Holland growing in these movies. And I think that's the greatest achievement. If you take nothing else from this review or the movies, is that sit back and watch them. Watch them from Homecoming to Far From Home till No Way Home. And I swear to God, you will see the arc of how much Holland's Spider-Man has grown. And I think that's the greatest achievement. When you are a good enough director to map out a plan, and I have no doubt, look, I've seen movies with no plan, okay? And they do a trilogy and it goes to shit. Star Wars, okay? I've seen it. This movie had a plan. This director knew where he wanted to start and where he wanted to end. And it was great. He totally nailed exactly the evolution he wanted to go for. That's just my personal opinion. Some people might disagree with me, but I think that this really showcases a character growing and changing. And that's what filmmaking is, right? Your characters have arcs. They start at one place, they end either better or worse as another. They grow. And if they don't do that, you have failed. Your movie is not good. I mean, sometimes you have it in one film, sometimes you have it in 3 or 4. But when you're watching a movie, you should see the growth of your character from beginning to end. They should start in one place and they should end in another. And it should be a logical conclusion. And that's what this movie does. I felt like I went on a 3-year journey, and I'm only counting those 3 films. And I've watched him grow from this young, immature, oh my God, the Avengers, to a mature, and he takes ownership for his mistakes. And it's something I don't get from a lot of shows. There's no more consequences. A character does something and it's like forgotten about. But one thing I can give these movies is that every consequence from every film follows into the next one. They just don't forget about it. It's there. And it's felt like a journey of how they've grown from one point to another. And I think that's what's important here. Janie Davis says at Mr. Zod's Phantom Zone, I'm totally a Cumberbatch. Yeah, I loved Cumberbatch in this movie. He was great. I need to watch so many movies. I'm going to talk to my roommate about a marathon. Usually franchise create as many new mistakes as they fix. Yeah, that's the amazing thing. They actually went back through and fixed some stuff. Generation Production says at Mr. Zod's Phantom Zone, it feels like the last Spider-Man movie, but it most likely isn't the last one. But it feels like it is done as the last Spider-Man movie. Yeah, it does. At Mr. Zod's Phantom Zone, I haven't seen you this hype before, but you deserve it. Thank you. Yeah, normally I'm angry. I have to say, to answer a question, this does feel like it ends a journey we went on. But there are some things in this movie that feels like it begins a whole nother journey. Like there is more for Peter to do. Like it feels like, okay, this was Peter in school. These are the things that have brought him to this point. Now he's going to go to college and be a man. And now this is what it's like when he becomes Spider-Man. And I think that to me, the greatest success of this movie is that it does what a trilogy is set out to do. Okay. And I've seen a lot of people arguing on the internet, and I would tell you this: look at Star Wars and then look at this, right? If you look at the beginning of where Rey starts to where she ends, there's virtually no progression. Okay. She's the same as she started. She's the same as she's ended. And I felt like she learned nothing in between. She doesn't really change. She doesn't really grow. She changes her name. That's it. There's nothing really that tells me she went on a journey and grew through all these experiences and that she's a different person. It just feels like, oh, she's got powers and oh, she just gets more powerful, and there's nothing. With this film, Peter Parker lost Tony Stark. He had his identity revealed, and he was betrayed by a person who was like a mentor to him. He's gone through. She's not Rey anymore. At the end, she's Palpatine in a female body. Yeah, I agree. In this movie, you see Tom Holland's journey. It feels like he really embodies the youthful Spider-Man, and there's something beautifully bittersweet about where he ends up, because it does feel like things that happen to him change him, and I'm really curious to see if he keeps that child optimism or if he's just a totally different Spider-Man after this, because he goes through. Like, if you think he went through a lot in those first two movies, he didn't go through shit. This movie really pushes his character to a point where I almost didn't want to look, because I'm like, fuck, man, just give him something. Like, Jesus Christ, like, I like, they are not afraid. They put Tom through hell in this movie. Peter Parker is really tested, and I think that's it for me. He is tested in this film like he's not been tested before. He's yeah, thank you, Crumble. So it's funny to see you as happy as a little kid, man. You are hyped. Yeah. Yeah, that's the great thing. This film makes me feel like a kid again. Like, I'm so giddy. I'm excited. Like, oh my God, like, what are they gonna do next with him? Like, what shit could they? Okay, let me give you guys an example. Tobey Maguire. The reason why so many people love Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, for all of you guys who are wondering, okay, and even Andrew Garfield, they lose people. They get battered and beaten and bloody. Tobey Maguire's suit must have ripped a million times in those Spider-Man films. You see the physical and mental toll that being Spider-Man takes on these heroes. Oh, have a good night, Mega Jetty. Thank you for popping by. You see and you feel the battle that they've gone through. Tobey's Spider-Man, I would say, would be the Spider-Man that took the most abuse. There's no contest. Nobody takes more physical and probably emotional and mental abuse. Like with MJ, with Tobey Maguire, and that whole love story. Like, he is physically, mentally, emotionally abused during that movie. Now, Tom Holland, he got a little bit of the abuse in the first one. In the second one, it was just some big dumb fun, and he had his emotional pain from being betrayed. But I didn't feel like he went through enough to justify where he was at. Yep. The lens could observe Stubby's straight face. Night, Sam. Or unless you're saying that to Mega Jetty. He goes through, Maguire goes through so much that you want to give him a hug. Like, those last shots, every Tobey Maguire movie are fucking depressing. Okay, I think 2 kind of had a happy ending when he grabs Mary Jane and they go web swinging and she's in the wedding dress. But then 3 starts off and he's back where he fucking started. He's worse. You know, him and Mary Jane are having problems. Like, Tobey went through shit, and now this one, Tom Holland is put through a gauntlet. He is tested, him personally. He is put through trials. He is beaten badly, like badly. Like, Tom Holland gets his ass beat in this movie. Like, he gets beat worse. Forget the first 2 movies. Like, the beating he takes in this film puts those movies to shame. And in the second film, he got hit by a fucking train. And this movie, to me, he got hit hard, and they packed it all into this movie. His trial was like, okay, here you go. You're thrown into the fucking fire. Yeah, he's a blanket on a bowl of soup character. Exactly. Like, in this one, by the end of it, I legitimately felt so fucking bad for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like, I wanted to fucking hug him through the screen. He really and you see it. Oh my God, Holland's performance. You see him mature. There's something in his eyes where he's merged these 2 Spider-Mans together. He's finally, like, you know how you have that moment in life where you grow up and it clicks? It feels like at the end of this movie, you're not looking at that goofy kid from Civil War. The kid who got snapped out, who lost Tony. He's a man. He's accepted the weight of what he has to do. He's accepted the things he might have to lose and give up. And now he can. He doesn't want to undo things. He knows that when he put on the suit, he chose to be a hero. And I think Hawkeye is doing the same thing. There's a lot of points where Clint says, you don't want this life to Kate. Like, you don't understand what you have to do, who you have to give up, what you have to lose with your loved ones, with your friends, with your families, with watching people die. You don't want it. And Spider-Man doesn't have a fucking choice. He has to do it. There is nobody else. Well, there is other people, but he's got this like innate thing that I think a good hero has, where they can't stand back and let shit happen. And Janie, you have to see it. By the end of this movie, he doesn't feel like a kid anymore. He has this look in his eye, like he gets it. He finally understands that with great power comes great responsibility. I'm sorry. One time through the review, I had to drop that. But really, there's a reason why this has been the saying that's carried through every film, because every Spider-Man hears that, but I think there's a certain point where they finally get it. Even Tobey Maguire, right? He fucks up. Andrew Garfield, he fucks up. They all have got this childish quality, and in the good films, you see the point when they lose that, when they realize exactly what that saying means. And it's so simple, and everybody memes it, and they say, oh, Uncle Ben. But there's a reason why that statement is in Spider-Man. There's a reason why it's carried on all these years. Think about the words. With great power comes great responsibility. And it doesn't mean that you won't sacrifice, that you won't lose people, that you won't have to do things. I mean, some Spider-Men have to kill their villains, and they have to hold that. They have to live with that and do better. I mean, every Spider-Man wants to cure the villain or lock them up. But at the end of the day, there's just some that are past redemption. And Spider-Man still has to be that hope. He has to be the guy who finds solutions other than taking out the villain. Spider-Man is so great because with Batman, he touches the line. With Superman, he's too damn good. Okay, he literally is the Boy Scout for a reason. He just absolutely, positively won't kill people. It's like option number Z. Yeah. Yeah. But with Spider-Man, he is on such a razor thin line because he is just a normal person. He struggles with work. He struggles with school. He struggles with relationships. I think Spider-Man is the most real hero. He is just a person. And yeah, he's got superpowers, but he still pays rent. He still lives in a crappy apartment. He still goes to school. He still has a girl that he loves and wants to be with. He, to me, he really embodies a normal person. Like, he doesn't, he's got super strength and speed and spider webs, and he's really smart, but he's still a kid, and he's still a young adult at certain ones, and he's still trying to figure out how to live and be a hero. And that's fucking tough, okay? He's not Romanoff. He can't just fucking disappear. He's not Captain America. He can't go to the surface. He's not Tony Stark. He doesn't have billions of dollars to hide behind. He's not Bruce Banner and got fucking PhDs and getting to hide in the fucking woods. He is not Wanda. He doesn't have mystical powers where he can just poof wherever the fuck he wants to go, or Doctor Strange where he has a sanctum. He is a New Yorker. He is a normal Joe. He has to live in the world amongst people and fuck up at his job on purpose so that he can be normal and still listen to a police scanner to save the people he can. And he loses, and he doesn't always get on time to save people. And he is the friendly neighborhood spider. He really, the reason why I love Spider-Man so much is growing up in New York, he really is the closest thing we have to a New Yorker. He is New York. He embodies the struggle that the common New Yorker has, right? A 9 to 5, and you got your thing on your side, and you got a girlfriend, and you're trying to fucking figure out how to make it in the world. He just happens to know the greatest heroes on earth. And I think that's why Spider-Man has always really resonated with me, because he reminds me of what New York is. It's fucking tough. It's brutal. But at the end of the day, underneath all the bullshit, people care. And New Yorkers care about each other. They really do. Believe it or not. You never know it. But there is a certain spirit that Spider-Man is New York. He represents some of the best parts of New York. And it made me feel that watching this movie. I honest to fuck, for the first time in a long time, miss New York. I felt it, like the city. He is the city. Spider-Man is New York City. I think that's why so many people love him, because he is relatable. And Tom gets that by the end. He achieves that perfect balance. He's New York now. He's welcome to New York, Tom. We got him from England, and now here he is. He's a New Yorker. At Mr. Zod's Phantom Zone, they keep taking Peter Parker back to high school because youth is intrinsic to his character. Yes, I agree. The point of Peter Parker is that he proves anyone can be Spider-Man if they got bitten. Yeah, I agree. 100%. Generation Production says, at Mr. Zod's Phantom Zone, Superman doesn't kill, but he cracked your neck, Zod. Also, in an alternate timeline, he kills the Joker. Just saying, it takes a bigger push to push Supes over the edge. Yeah, that's true. Samar says, at Janie, I grew up with the cartoons. I don't remember too many school scenes. Could be by memory, though. My comics of choice were horror as a youngster. I agree. The comic books did do some references, the older ones. They kind of aged them as the issues went on. He always was like either in college or something. He always kind of had like a school thing going. I think they did it more in the Amazing Spider-Man issues. But yeah, I do think that this movie really is a respectful film. I think it bridges the old and the new perfectly. And I think it really does something important. It lets Tom Holland act. It lets him come to his own, and it lets him make Spider-Man his own. And I think whether you like or hate Andrew Garfield, he made that character his own. Tobey Maguire made Spider-Man his own. And finally, Tom Holland, he had the chance. They gave him the ball, and he did it. He did a perfect slam dunk. He made his own Spider-Man. And that's what's important when you're playing a character, right? You make the character your own. And I think he does that. Mr. Zod, do you? Yes. I saw this in IMAX, or not IMAX. It was Screen DXH or something. It was the bigger screen. Yes, go see this movie in IMAX. Like, if you have an IMAX near you, I would recommend going and seeing it there to get the full experience. The visuals, the sound, it's all fantastic. Oh, and the music. So the last thing I want to talk about, the musical score combines every single Spider-Man soundtrack, basically, like their themes, into one movie. And it doesn't get obnoxious. It's all very well done. They blend the theme songs very seamlessly. I was never taken out of the music, the movie by the music. It all fits. There's no rap tunes, no rock tunes. It's just straight symphony and orchestra, and the theme of a villain or the theme of Spider-Man. But it sticks with that. They don't do like, the newest pop song or some shit like that. And I was glad that they didn't do that. I think a lot of the other films suffer from the musical score. That's just my personal opinion. If you're not into that, it won't make a difference. I see. Yeah, I remember he was employed as a photographer. Yeah, for the Daily Bugle. Oh, also, J.K. Simmons is the fucking man. Don't you ever change. J.K. Simmons is Jonah Jameson. They will never replace him. Literally, they will have to dig this man up years from now to do these movies, because You can't replace him. He, oh my God, in this movie in particular, there were parts where he sounds like Stan Lee. I shit you not. I got chills. I literally thought it was Stan Lee talking at one point in the movie. Yeah, I wish they would do another Star Trek. Hopefully not J.J. Abrams. But yeah, everyone was great. I did my hour review, hopefully without spoiling it for anyone. I really recommend this movie for everyone. My final grade, as of right now, I'm gonna watch this movie 2 more times. But as of right now, of recording, I give this movie a 9 out of 10. I don't think it's a perfect 10. There's a couple of things that maybe I'll bring up in my spoiler review that I don't think there's a few things that I think are still kind of marvelish. There's some jokes that don't land. There is some moments they take away from with the goofy MCU shit. But I mean, I don't have any other complaints really. The sound design is excellent. The effects are great. The de-aging is great. The characters all sound the same. They all some of their looks are better. I mean, I gotta be honest. I'm gonna see it a couple of more times, but I really think I'm staying at a 9. This isn't a perfect movie. It's probably gonna get some people who are gonna bitch about certain things that weren't in the film, but I think this is a good ending. This, to me, achieves the heights of any great Spider-Man film. It pays respects to its fans, and it cares about people having a good time. And it's a great time at the movies. Yep, J. Jonah Jameson. J.K. Simmons is never going to escape this character. I'm sorry. He is always J. Jonah, and nobody will ever replace him. And I feel bad for the actor who tries, because good luck. You're not going to replace that man. He is a gem. Literally, I hope he outlives us all, because if they make 3 more of these, if they just need to get rid of his character if they can't get him. That's just my personal opinion. They will fuck up his character if they try to recast him. Thank you. I'm glad I didn't spoil anything for you. Yeah. I think being that they took Venom in a different place, I don't know if they'll do that storyline, but we'll have to see. But anyways, thank you everybody for watching. Please retweet all of the YouTube things. I really appreciate you guys staying up with me and listening to me tap dance around this movie. I think in about a week from now, or maybe a couple of days, I'm going to do a full spoiler review. And then I'm going to break down my favorite scenes, what didn't work for me. Because once I can spoil it, I'll be able to really dive in and tell you a few issues that I did have and why it's not a perfect 10. But look, a 9 out of 10. I gave Ghostbusters the same thing. I think that this is on that level of how respectful and well made this movie is. And I put them both at the same level. I've seen 2 good franchise revivals. Thank you. I don't know who's running Sony, but thank you, Sony. Can you please keep this up? I like being happy. I don't like being angry. I like feeling like a little hyper kid. I watched Hawkeye. Yellowstone came back. I've been on a really good roll. I don't want to see anything else shitty. So Hollywood, can you please just give me more good stuff? The Batman I have high hopes for. Please don't fuck any of these up. I'm not seeing Fantastic Beasts, so I can give a fuck. Fuck Aquaman 2. I just keep going, Hollywood. Take out the political bullshit and just make good stories. I think a lot of people are going to see this. And before we go, I'm just going to say it. I think this movie might make $1 billion. I think we might see the first pandemic record with this movie. And I don't mean the bullshit when they try to push a movie. I think this legitimately might make a shitload of money. The word of mouth on this, I think, is going to be fantastic. I think families are going to enjoy it. I think they're going to, with Christmas coming up, this is going to be a Christmas movie. I think this is going to make big money. And I'll be very interesting to see what the box office numbers look like. After JK gets too old, they need to retire the character for a generation, give it a good couple of decades. Yeah, I agree, Will. Don't recast JK. Don't do it. I think that's why they got him back. Jon Watts, good job. Tom Holland, good job. Zoe, good job. Ned, I'm sorry. I can't remember your actor's name, but you did a good job. Benedict Cumberbatch, you've always been my favorite since Sherlock. Knocked it out of the park. All of the villains, kudos. Jamie Foxx, you did it, man. You redeemed your character. Good on you, Jamie. You deserve it. You're a great actor. Good work, everybody. This film is made with love, passion. Go and watch it. Support this movie, please. I want Hollywood to start making films like this again. I'm happy. I'm going to go to bed on a good high. So please, Hollywood, don't fuck it up. Marvel, Sony, don't fuck it up. Please, do not fuck this up. You have a good start, Sony. Into the Spider-Verse 2 looks good. I'm really excited about Morbius. Please, Sony, you got a winner. Keep it going, man. This is what I want to see. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great night. And as always, remember the only rule here in the Spider-Man zone: with great power comes great responsibility.